Yo, what's Gucci, guys? So today we're going to be talking about the stereotypes of psychosophy placements. Now, obviously, psychosophy is very butchered in many ways because of the syntax of love and the way the Russians circle jerk that shit. It's very caricature based, it's very exaggerated. So today we're going to be talking about willpower, right? 1v, 2v, 3v, 4v. And I'm going to turn this into a little series. So anyway, let's start with first will. Let's start with the one that probably many people want to address. 1v is not superhuman. 1v is not a superpower. 1v is not this hyper cool girl boss complex figure. It's actually quite primitive. It's quite simple. 1v really is just very simple because it is result oriented. So it lacks a lot of the nuances and, circle jerking of 2v and 3v. So it's very simple. And it's not superhuman. People often think that this is a person who can never fucking doubt themselves, never feel wounded by failing a goal or not, not really true. I think even in syntax of love, you can see some of the examples about 1v when they lose power. It can be quite detrimental to them and quite painful until they receive it back. They doubt themselves like any other human. Any human is capable of self-doubt. Any human. When humans are forced to face a challenge, a huge challenge, like a mountain, and it's a huge mountain. It's a mountain that maybe even killed many people. I mean, do you look at the mountain and think, "Oh, this is a piece of cake"? No fucking problem. You might try to have the mindset. I will not stop at any challenge. But does that mean you're not gonna have a moment when you're gonna be thinking, "I don't fucking think I can do it. This is fucking hard. Why the fuck am I doing it?" Everyone has those problems. Every person who deals with something extremely hard will have a moment, that breaking point where that one split second decision will decide if they keep going or if they give up. Right? You're climbing the mountain, you keep fucking going, we all fucking have doubt, all of us. But some of us get plagued by it. Some of us allow it in our brain to corrupt us and to fucking get best of us and then, make us crumble. So it's about how you deal with it. You need to have a mindset of, I'm gonna fucking break through this shit, no problem. Let's fucking go. And when you have followed certain types of people who have done extraordinary things, you will realize, no matter how confident those people were, 1v, whatever the fuck, they still had those moments where they did think, I don't think I can fucking make it. But you know what they did? They kept pushing. So that is something, guys, you have to understand. Doubt, you fail a goal, something can happen. Yeah, something like that can happen. Will that hurt you? If it's your dream, right? It will fuck you up, yes. Yeah, of course. You're going to be disappointed. That's normal. That's natural. Does that mean you're not 1v? No. But how do you deal with that? Is this goal now your life, right? You failed it. Now, do you just have no self-esteem outside of that? Did that just now prove that you are not worthy? No, because you will be worthy. You think you'll be based regardless if you reach the goal. That's not the point. Your self-worth is not based on the goal. That doesn't change the fact that failing that goal sucked, okay? But at the end of the day, fuck it, you move on. Freedom to enact your will on the world. To go your own way, to say fuck you to the society, to the, again, expectations of society. Everyone, nowadays especially, everyone was trying to fit in. Everyone wants likes. Everyone wants recognition. Everyone wants this. Let's be fucking like everyone else. That's the world we live in now. So it's an ability to literally jump to your own beat. I go whenever I want to go. Wake up whenever I want to wake up. Try telling me what the fuck to do. It's not going to go well. Just you go your own way. This doesn't mean you have to be some fucking bad bitch. Freedom of will. Another stereotype, which is kind of why I was leaning into this one. Workaholic, badass, girl boss. Fucking always constantly circle jerking his Sigma male grind set. Edits. Daydreaming, right? Just a person who's so immersed into a constant improvement. Oh my god, I need this, I need that. How do I improve this? Let me watch a tutorial how to be a better version of myself. All of that shit. Constantly thinking about your goals. Constantly thinking, how am I going to reach those goals? fucking setting little lists and goals. That's not first will. That's an important key here. All those behaviors are behaviors of process willpower. 3V people are even more ambitious, more driven than first will people. I'm going to explain why. Now imagine you are an individual who has a very good sense of self. Or maybe you're an arrogant douchebag with a bit of a superiority complex. You think you're fucking based, and maybe you even think you're elevated over others. And you don't really, you just think you're meant for greatness. That might be your perception. You're meant for greatness, and that's who the fuck you are, right? Now, did you achieve anything? No. Are you a lazy cunt? Kind of a yes. So, does it have really merit, any objective merit? Probably fucking not. On the other hand, you have a person who is constantly feeling a burning desire to keep being productive, feeling that they need to achieve, feeling that they need to keep going, they need to, gain self-worth, that they need to think about their plans, to make something of themselves, and to prove everyone else who doubted them that they can do it. Who do you think is gonna be more of a successful person in the long run, generally speaking, and more consistent? The person who's 3V. Because you know what you need to be successful? You need that bit of a fire. You need that fire under your belly. And sometimes sometimes those fucking people's expectations, this is what boosts this 3V person. Andrew Tate is a marvelous example of that, right? Could not sleep because he saw a man drive a better car than he did. So he had to have it. He had to do things to have that self-worth. Because without it, he couldn't cope. He literally could not cope. First will can be ambitious. I'm not saying they can't. They can be ambitious, but it's not a circle jerk. It's literally just result oriented. Any desire you have that appears in your head, it appears, you go for it. There's no circle jerking. And again, I think there is a certain simplicity to first will that many people forget about. There's this notion that 1V is not hierarchical. It's 2V that's hierarchical, and it's 3V, which is process will. That's not true. 1V is hierarchical, okay? The difference is the way they view hierarchy is it's them above, at the top, right? And everyone beneath, equal. That's it. The hierarchy of first will is almost very simplistic. It's not really thought about much. It's not a placement where you try to constantly assess your hierarchical position. You need to be here. Where am I in relation to other people? It's not something that the first will person was going to spend much time thinking about at all, because there's a certain sense of elevation since the start that they believe, that they're at the top. It's weird to really describe it, and which it can often manifest as literally defiance towards authority. Why do you think certain 1V people are rebellious against authority? They walk in, or they have no regard for it because of that, because they view themselves as the top. No one can fucking tell them what the fuck to do, right? So you will defy. And this can be seen in normal life. 1V wants freedom. How do you really get freedom to enact on your will? To get what you want? Preferably, you need to be put in a position of power. You need to be put in a position where you can exercise it, not because you want a fucking power trip, because that's not really about that. To have the freedom to enact the change you want. If I want to do something, I can do it. If I want to change something in a project, I can do it. All of my desires and all of my wants will be fulfilled if only I so wish. And just that thought, just having that thought, is what brings 1V peace. Because if I want to, I can. And that's the problem when you have subjugation. You can't really do that because the person will say, no, you're not the fucking boss. So that's an issue with that. But ideally, you put yourself at the top to be able not to answer to anyone and to enact your will and get your desires fulfilled. Now, let's proceed to second will. And with second will, it's this notion that 2V is such a good person, that 2V cannot be tyrannical. That's the notion, because they're described as saints. They're described as people who can do no wrong. Completely equal, completely fucking never prone to tyranny and leadership perfection. 2V person can be tyrannical, their harmony being threatened, the harmony of the place. And they will enact even with violence, or they will enact and do things, put people in their place because they believe they're threatening that peace, that harmony, which might seem like a good thing, but it can be a very misplaced ideal. And that's the thing here. Okay? So don't get fooled by the fact that they can seem like people who care about equality. Yes, generally they tend to have a more cooperative attitude, more even attitude is how I would describe it. The difference here is that they will want to perceive it as greater good. And I think an example of this would be someone like Thanos. It's hard to believe that someone like Thanos would be too evil. I mean, the guy, he wants to enact brutality on people. I mean, he does it, yes, for idealism, and he does it for greater good. But it's if you look at it, it's a collective will, right? It's collective will. I'm doing this for us, right? I'm doing this because I want to help our people. It's collective will. It's other focused. So yes, he does enact on brutality and violence and decapitation, but it is for the thought process of greater good. Because if we sacrifice some, we can have other people flourish, and kids gonna have something to eat. So it's very collective will, and that is, in my opinion, how tyranny can express itself in a severe form in 2V. Now, when it comes to hierarchies, the way that the second will works is it's very idealistic. It doesn't really pay attention as much to status. It treats everyone in terms of hierarchies more or less equal. There's certain idealism that is apparent there. Big thing here is that 2V people tend to be very dutiful. They tend to be responsible, and they take hierarchy and they take roles quite seriously. So I view 2V people almost as individuals who excel in different roles. You put them in a role, they respect it. It's not a person that's going to be just defiant for the fucking purpose of it because they have a big ball sack. No, they're going to respect it and they're going to fucking stick to it. So a very dutiful individual that will fulfill its role may even sacrifice, a lot of their own things for the greater good of the team. So this is kind of how it works. This is the 2V's attitude to hierarchy. That they are weak pussies who, they're not as cool as 1V. They're not capable to really achieve greater things because they're always insecure. They're always coping. And that's not the truth at all. Again, people can look at someone like Andrew Tate, and once again, he has achieved a lot in his life. He has achieved a lot in his life probably because he's 3V. That's what gave him the push, that relentless fucking drive to keep fucking day and night hoarding and fucking processing his will, jerking off to it. Because if he didn't have that, he would be comfortable and he wouldn't give a fuck half as much. So no, 3V doesn't make you a coward, doesn't make you necessarily a piece of shit who's, again, weak and scared. No. And even the insecure, you have to understand that our willpower runs deep. Doesn't really have to manifest itself as obvious insecurity. For example, LSI's 3V, do you think those people cannot apply their will? Do you think they're scared of you? They're oh my god, I don't think I can do it. Huh? No, of course that's not the case for them, even though they're volition. It's in conjunction with other elements. That is how that appears often as, intellectual arrogance, rigidity, aggressiveness, intellectual aggressiveness, reactivity, paranoia, sense of prosecution. All of those things is what makes it. But it's not as simple as, this, they're all insecure. Keep in mind that there are different flavors to 3V. Some 3V are very pitiful people who do say they can't fucking achieve anything and they're fuck-ups and they're gonna be never fit in the fucking society, like Joker. Then you have 3V people who are much more aggressive, like LSI or even LIE, in their volition. So they're not gonna seem that way. They're gonna seem go-getters who go after what they want, and they go hard on that. That's the point. They go hard on that. They can seem extremely confident even, but there's always a certain compensation by the first element. And we see this with Andrew Tate perfectly, I think. Didn't have a card another man had. There was such a focus, the materialism, is that he had to do everything. All about money, all about success, all about possessions, all about cars. I have this, I have that. It's always been about what he has, his money, his possessions. That's all his life. That's it. So he used F. It was all physics that was the main priority. And that's what he used to compensate for weak will. So it depends what you're using to compensate for your will. Okay? So keep that in mind. Another stereotype is that they are extremely spurgy fucking monkeys who just do whatever they want. They don't give a fuck, right? Oh, yeah. No. In fact, many 3Vs are very self-controlled people, which can almost give them this impression of high will, impression of even first will, like FLVE, LFVE. Both types can be very, very self-controlled. They can pride themselves in their self-control, not being more stoic, being more unemotional. Another stereotype that I've seen a lot in the past, not so much nowadays, but a year ago, 2 years ago, is this perception of 3V being the rebellious person, rebellious and power hungry. And I think the biggest thing you guys need to understand, because this has been distorted, this idea has been distorted so much. 3V people, by definition, are more or less conforming. That's the whole point. Okay, they're not non-conformists who are opened in their rebellion. That's what you need to understand. So there's certain charlatanism, deceitfulness, and indirect ways of kind of approaching authority for the 3V. That's what it does. Not saying 1V can do that, but that's the go-to for the third will. It is much more, it's indirect in its rebellion and much more conforming, okay? So for example, you might ask, well, yes, but Andrew Tate is an example of 3V, but he's the biggest non-conformer because he talks about like break the matrix and wow, he's against the government. You might think that on a very, very superficial level, that he's a non-conformist. His whole life is based about conforming. Think about that. Conforming to the ideal of an alpha male. Conforming to how things should be like. How I should be a worthy male. How I should have money because women then will like me. And if women won't like me, then I'm a loser. And if you're a loser, then you're worth nothing and you should be ashamed. It's all about conforming. A true nonconformist wouldn't give a fuck about any of that. You look at that and think, cool, I don't even need any of this shit to feel like I'm based. Now we're going to talk about fourth will, which is very butchered. We've turned this type into displacement into this subservient little dog who's just gonna go with everything possible. Again, guys, variation matters in the types. It can be a very individualistic will that doesn't want to interfere with people's will and their direction. But they want to be left alone to their devices. Don't fucking mess with them. They want to be independent. I've seen that. I received a questionnaire from a guy who I typed SLI. I typed 4V. The passive lifestyle, not really wanting excessive responsibilities, just kind of do their own thing and that's it. But you've noticed something very important there. I want to do my thing and I want to be left alone. I want to be independent. I don't want to kind of rely on people for that. So that's what you see. This is the individualistic nature of fourth will. It is there. It exists. It's not a fucking jerk off. It's real. Difference between 1V and 4V in this case is that the 4V is a motherfucking degenerate often, and they have no fucking desire to apply their will. They have no desire. And that's also the sad part about that, because they want the independence. They just don't want to be controlled in many ways, but they're not going to assert their will. Just leave me alone. Just let me just let me fucking do my thing. And that's it. There's no assertiveness in terms of the willpower. You're not asserting yourself and your fucking place in the world. That's what they do. For many fourth will people, especially their personal space. Their personal space is not something you should mess with. It's probably one of the easiest ways to kind of piss a 4V person off, to make them react to you strongly. You invade that space, you invade their space, you invade their boundaries. They're just chilling, they want to be left alone, and you fucking do it. You are now crossing into dangerous territory, because now you're fucking with the things that are the most precious to them. I think Charlie Sheen is a good example. That guy's a fucking degenerate, but guess what? He gives no fucks. He gives no fucks. He wants to snort coke, fuck them hoes, and move on with his life. That's it. Just leave him be. Stay tuned. Bye. Ciao.